Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon George. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I walked in the convention center this morning, like the majority of people in this room, a member of a county team that was invited down by Chief Justice Rush to come get some education. But I'm not here today or on the stage right now because I oversee the Boone County Jail-Based Treatment Program or because I'm the director of Indiana Addictions Issues Coalition. I'm standing up here today as a person in long-term recovery from severe opioid use disorder and substance use disorder. My addiction came on early, and my consequences were pretty much immediate. As a teenager, I had several brushes with the law. I had 2 friends that were murdered. I couldn't even make it out of high school. By the time I was 21 years old, I had 2 DUIs. My life was completely unraveling before it ever began. I would have some periods that would resemble normalcy in my life, but it was always followed by a worse crash. My consequences would continue to get worse. My relationships were strained. Ultimately, I wasn't able to hold a job, which would lead to homelessness. And at various times throughout, my freedom would be taken from me. This would lead to a revolving door of treatment. I had 8 inpatient stays at roughly 6 different places. When I when I was in that cop car on December 18th of 2008, I was devastated. I was wondering, how did this happen again? How did I get here again? Little did I know that was going to be the first day of my recovery. My recovery was a combination of things. I've heard a lot about it today. Treatment being the first part. Residential care. Got a lot of psychotherapy, group therapy, individual therapy. Therapy for trauma, from having friends murdered and abused. Medication. Living in a structured environment like a recovery residence. Social supports that we hear about. AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery. And also the accountability from the criminal justice system. My first job in recovery was working in a restaurant. I was waiting tables. Then I became a supervisor, and there I got stuck because of my criminal background. Not stuck just in title, but in pay as well. Making $12 an hour instead of the $40,000 position that it should have been. After years, I was able to prove myself and get a job in management, then become a general manager, and then ultimately oversaw 2 stores. While I was working in the restaurant, I was able to further my education. As mentioned, I was a high school dropout. I went back and got my GED. But I was able to attend college. I went to Indiana Wesleyan University. And I'm proud to say when I was 6 years sober, I graduated with a 3.9 GPA. Still a little upset that I left that 1/10 of a percentage on the table, but there's always opportunity for growth. When I switched fields formally, part of my new role was going to be overseeing the Boone County Addictions Program. But when Sheriff Mike Nielsen got my background check in, he quickly said, that ain't going to happen. But something was going to happen. You see, when the sheriff found out that I was 6 years into recovery, he agreed to have a meeting with me. During that meeting, he found out a little bit about my treatment. He found out about what I had been doing over the last 6 years. He found out that we were alums of the same college. And when we left, he said, Brandon, I'd be happy to have you work inside my facility with these inmates. And this has led not only to a positive relationship with Sheriff Nielsen, but many leaders in Boone County. Several of them are here today. Christina Candia, Judge Kincaid, who asked me to come. See, they were able to see past what was on a piece of paper and see me for a person. For as much that has changed, a lot's still the same. I still talk about drugs. I still go to jail. and I still stand in front of judges. Today, when I talk about drugs, it's in relation to recovery. When I go to jail, I actually get to walk up the door and punch a code, and my own code, and let me in. And better yet, they let me leave when it's time to go. And when I stand in front of judges, it's usually to give updates on clients in our program or things like we're doing today. In active addiction, I wasn't able to hold a job. In recovery, I was able to become the CEO of a treatment provider, and now the director of a statewide nonprofit. In active addiction, nobody wanted me around. They kept me far away, family included, and rightfully so. In recovery, I'm regularly asked to participate. And whether that's sitting on advisory boards for different state agencies or being asked by Indiana University to sit on an expert panel, people actually value my opinion in recovery today. I had a 9-year-old daughter. When I was in addiction, I only saw her a couple times in the previous couple years. And when she was in her early recovery, when she was 10 years old, she didn't want to see me. I'm grateful today that daughter is 19 years old. And she's lived with me twice. She regularly comes to me for advice. And overall, she's well adjusted. I've also got a 3-year-old who's never seen me use before. It's kind of amazing. The light in her eye when I walk through the door every day is amazing. What's more amazing is that I can be counted on by her and her mom to actually walk through the door every day. I had advisors and friends tell me, Brandon, I'm not sure if you should speak at this summit. Your advocacy group is going great. You're working with leaders around the state to promote healthy recovery communities. What happens if a judge sees you that sentenced you? Or a probation officer that supervised you? What happens if a sheriff sees you that used to house you? And my response was simple. What if they don't? What if they don't see anybody in recovery? What if they haven't seen anybody that's worn orange before, that's been down and out, that was able to get healthy, get their life back together, and become a good father, a good son, a good neighbor, maybe even a leader in their community? I refuse to believe that Hoosier hospitality does not apply to recovery from addiction. I refuse to believe that the people in this room would stop working with me or anyone else who had a chronic disease, who had poor impulse control from using drugs a decade ago. But the stigma around addiction is suffocating. Besides employment, I've got a nurse friend, 5 years sober, has a license, works at a hospital. Nobody will rent her an apartment. A friend who's trying to get into med school but can't get past the application process because the red tape, because of a paraphernalia charge from a couple years ago. I would hope that everybody in this room, and not just hope, I challenge everybody in this room to examine our thoughts and beliefs around addiction, around medication, around people, and everybody in between. This group stands at what I believe is the most difficult crossroads of addiction. It's the intersection in between public health and criminal justice. But this group also has the ability to affect change more so than any other group. If your advisory boards in your counties and the coalitions that you sit on don't have somebody in recovery on them, find one. Find a recovery coach in your community. Find somebody that attends social supports. They don't have all the answers to the problems, but their opinion is invaluable. They will be able to point out strengths and weaknesses in the system and maybe bring a message of hope when everything seems hopeless. There's nothing special about me. I'm just one of 23 million people who's living in recovery. And I'm here today to tell you that treatment works and recovery is possible. Thank you all very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.